I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Here with Steven and my podcast, Get It. And I get to be blessed with the second round of my dear friend who is joining again because we had so much to talk about and it was going so well. So, walking through with Stefani here and the just continuing of her journey and the things that she's been doing. We got to hear so much in the last podcast, and there was still much more to dive into. But I do want to pick up from where we left off in talking about you've moved into film on the backside of production and being a producer and that kind of stuff. You've got a Netflix documentary, which I got through the first half of, and I've loved it so far. Now I want to get into that a little bit, but also, how did you guys meet the guy who you did it with? Because I did watch Pharmaceutical Thugs, and I did watch one of his other documentaries, which escapes me at the moment, but I've watched a couple of them.
Fitness competitions led us into more of these projects and kind of meeting people and getting along the way. So my husband, David, ended up connecting with Chris Bell and doing some fitness stuff with them just for fun. And he saw a lot of our work through the fitness stuff we were doing with Gold's Gym in Venice. And he was like, hey, I want to bring you on to do a few shots locally here in California. Are you interested? So really, David was brought on for a local hire to shoot when they needed a second shooter out here, or out there, I guess I should say. Mm-hmm. And, just being on the background and seeing the organization of where the film was going. And, I'm one of those people that's I'm kind of, again, perfectionist. And I saw that there were little mistakes that were happening, for instance, like having a couple of flights booked first class to Thailand. Like, why do you have 2 flights booked? That's not really necessary. So just like seeing small little hiccups where the budget could have been leaking a little bit. And I thought, let me just have a conversation with Chris and see if he needs some help. Because they were great. They were doing the best they can with what they had, but I just felt like if they had an agenda to get the film done at a certain date, they might not have reached that goal. So just talking with my husband, talking with Chris, and talking with the executive producer, I just said, you guys, let's kind of get this a little tightened up. Let's get it more organized. And then they brought me on kind of part-time to help. And then just kind of getting exposed to where the project was and seeing everything, it ended up being a full-time producing gig. And we ended up wrapping up that project, I think, 3 or 4 months later. We added a few more things because in the documentary, if you can see, with a leaf, with an F, a leaf of faith, it's a film about a plant-based supplement called Kratom. And the idea behind Kratom is it's helping people wean off of opioids. And it's a product, in low doses, it acts as kind of like a stimulus. Some people could use it as a coffee even. And it's very similar to a matcha green tea. But in high doses, it kind of gives off that receptor that an opioid would without the addiction. So for people who are addicted, it helps them wean off without the addiction trait that comes.
Right.
In the making of the project, this is when the government started making it a Scheduled 1 drug, which it has no reason to be a Scheduled 1 drug, in our opinion. And I'm one of those natural freaks who I don't take Advil. I'm not a big medicinal person. But the executive producer was like, just try this when you have cramps as a female. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Literally wiped out my cramps. And I didn't have to have any kind of negative liver effects through normal, Advil and Tylenol would, So there's something to this product. And I felt and we all felt maybe that Big Pharma was having some challenges with it. And so along the way of making the project, we had to add a few more doctors in here and there. I don't know if that really answers your question. I think I may have segued a little bit.
So, honestly, first and foremost, I'm all about going through things a little bit more holistically first. And I think that and I know this is the start of a rabbit hole, right? In a lot of conversations you get into, you can have a rabbit hole. And so, going back to big pharma, right? And their role in the world. I mean, is there a need for pharmaceutical drugs for people? Of course there is, right? There's a need for stuff. But do we live in a world that is over prescribing so much, and we're seeing negative effects now? And for me, being in the exercise science realm, so being in the fitness world and nutrition world still, and seeing those things, yeah, there definitely is a problem with pharmaceutical companies and this overprescription of drugs. If you take too much stuff, it can have negative effects. You know, I really enjoyed this documentary for myself personally, just because for those people who, you know, and I don't really talk about a lot, but I've been living in pain, in physical pain, since I was 19 years old. I played college sports. I was in amateur sports and all that fun stuff. And I've taken a lot of injuries. And so backing up into my own story of college, when I was done with my first 2 years of playing basketball at the junior college in Bremerton, Washington, I was transferring to Western Oregon, and my ankles were in really bad shape, and I had to forfeit my scholarship because I was contingent on me playing my first year, not redshirting. So when I got into doing the rehab for my ankles and stuff, well, my shoulders were messed up, my back was in a bad spot, and so I started to have to do a lot of stuff to try and, you know, recover other little things. But those weren't really, like, my ankles, for the most part, I mean, they're 90+%. They're not going to ever be 100. But then I go to my Central Washington University, where I graduated from. So I go there, and in the summer and spring, it's not so bad because the heat's good for my body. But in the winter and in the late fall and in the winter, it is not good for me, which is also another reason why living in a warm environment like Southern California has been great for me. But I actually started down a dicey road that I didn't even know was dicey. And I started taking like 3-4 Tylenol PM every night. Well, your body adapts to that. And then I started taking 5, then I started taking 6, then I started taking 7. I got to a spot and I was taking 12 Tylenol PM a night, which somebody was like, dude, people die doing that. And not only that, but what you're doing to your liver and kidneys is crazy. And so I literally stopped taking all pharmaceutical drugs from pretty much, they're not like, it's rare I take anything. I can be dog sick. I take all natural stuff for the most part. And I think that that's really the way to go. And my body, for the most part, I felt better doing things the natural way. And also, you know, I know I'm not killing my organs. And, you know, the other great positive effect is I'm not hooked on something. And so seeing that, and then, you know, one other thing really quick, which really I've really enjoyed about your guys' documentary, is I had to take oxycodone. So I had man, this is, I don't really want to, I guess, get too personal on this, but I had a situation arise and I had to go like pretty much immediately and see a doctor. And I immediately was basically taken to the hospital. And unfortunately, due to this special situation I was given, I can't hear you. I can't hear a word you're saying. No, I can hear you.
You're just going to have to hear me like this then. Can you hear me okay without the headphones?
Perfectly fine.
Okay, we'll have to just do this without him. So.
All right. Well, Kevin, if you want to edit any of this, knock yourself out. If not, we will continue on. So I have this little situation arise, and so I go to the hospital, you know, and I'm at the hospital for almost a day while they're doing all these tests and scans and stuff. And so at the end of all of this, the end result for my little...
You look so embarrassed. I feel like I have to know.
Well, it's not necessarily embarrassing. It's tough to like, oh, you know, this is because it's me, right? All right. So this is what happened. So I was working out. It felt like somebody kicked me in the nuts really hard, but they were always kicking me in the nuts. The pain didn't go away. So long story short, I broke a tube in my nuts, and I don't know how else to say it. I'm trying to be, you know, as politically correct as I can be. It hurt. So I went to the hospital, and thing I could do was ice my balls and take like oxycodone. And I had to take it 3 times a day. I took like the big pill too. And I mean, it makes you feel real good. You know, I would equate it to like, you know, I don't take, and going back to, I wasn't a recreational drug person, so it's not like I've gotten high now because I use it for my migraines. The little vape pen with the oils in it and stuff. But I mean, up until the last couple of years of my life, I've never really even done it. Like, you know, the most of anything I've used was I drank alcohol, right? So I don't, aside from using medical marijuana, or I guess it doesn't, I live in California, it's not medical anymore, just using the medical oils in a vape pen and then alcohol. Those are my only 2 things. So this was, you know, very unique, right? And I don't know I know it has a lot of the same chemical compounds as heroin and that stuff, but I've never used drugs outside of those 2 things. So I don't know what to compare this to other than when I would take it, like I would just feel like I was floating on clouds and like everything just slowed down in life. And like, it was just, you know, you feel vastly, vastly different. That's the only way I can really describe it. And so this happened when I was, you know, at this point I was 24 when this happened, I was 24. So that was exciting. And so I know how that can be so addicting, right? And so I went through my first bottle and they give you a good sized bottle and I took it all. And unfortunately, this was something that took, you know, 4 to 5 weeks to go away or heal. So I had to get another bottle of it. Now, you know, and they didn't give me the same size bottle and stuff, but after the pain had kind of gone away and stuff, I kept the remaining amount of those pills because I'm like, dude, if I get like seriously hurt or something, I mean, this is great, right? And again, that side of me is thinking like, well, you know, this would be a great thing to use if needed. But thankfully, I didn't have like that addictive personality of like I've used a drug or a pill or something, and now I just need it, right? I knew because of my experience with Tylenol and, you know, taking 12, 14 Tylenol PMs at night to go to sleep. And then I also remember not sleeping for like 6 weeks because when I found out what was going on, I literally quit cold turkey. I took all the pills in my house, Tylenol, ibuprofen, Advil, Aleve, all of it. And I literally gave it to my buddies who were just like, hey, you know, they're college kids. They didn't want to go, you know, like they're a group of them, gave them like, hey, you guys need some Tylenol stuff. They're like, yeah, we'll take it. Gave it to them. I literally quit. And like I said, I didn't sleep for 6 weeks. It was the worst 6 weeks, probably I would say it might actually be the worst 6 weeks of my life ever. And I'm living in the coronavirus right now, and we've got all this nonsense to deal with. I had never been in that boat before. I know I never wanted to ever experience that again. And so I had this horrible experience that, let's say, changed my life in some positive ways because now I know how bad pharmaceutical drugs can be for you. And that kind of woke me up for the first time ever towards that pharmaceutical drugs might not always be the best thing, right? And it opened me up to understanding maybe this holistic, you know, there's other ways to do things. So long story short, you know, with the Oxycontin, you know, I eventually got rid of that too because I didn't want to have it after I was done with it. You know, it was great it helped me get through what I need to get through by all means. But, you know, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense that that's an easy thing for people to get addicted to.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know.
I mean, is it the people that have addictive personalities' fault because they don't know how to stop? Or is it that doctors are prescribing these opioids in large amount doses that aren't really necessary? You know, for you, I mean, did you feel like you needed a refill and did you need to be taking that many? And I mean, imagine if you had said you were in more pain, doc, I need another refill. You're now battling it, right? Or you're having a detox coming off of all the other medication.
Yeah, and you know, again, just I'm thankful that I had already had such a negative experience previously with pharmaceutical drugs. But, you know, I don't even necessarily know if it's, you know, if we sit here and say, well, are the doctors doing it or are they being forced to do this stuff because of pharmaceutical companies? Because, you know, Pharmaceutical Thugs was a really good documentary too that this guy did, right? Which was about how they systematically wiped out all forms of natural and holistic type medicines and practices and recoveries, and they made it all about pills.
Right. And if you
So
see,
you guys,
oh, go ahead.
well, so and then you guys now embarked upon this journey with this guy,
Yeah.
like how, and so, you know, I feel like if you poke at the bear long enough, the bear might make himself present and known. So have you guys had any pushback from that?
Yes, they actually have. So, and it might be good when you start interviewing other people too. I could introduce you to Kelly Dunn, who happened to be our executive producer, but we also put him in the film because we wanted to highlight some of the people who were doing who were working in the creative industry legit. And so with Kelly, even though they didn't have to be USDA approved, he was going through the proper chain of command by testing his products. And you'll see all this in the film. We were kind of battling, do we want to showcase him? Is it a conflict of interest because he's funding? But then we thought, it's important for us to show the good players in the industry. And he was doing everything right. Again, testing products, making sure if things came back with like yeast or mold, he sent the product back. People and the theory of the film is that they were claiming, again, who's they, right? But there were claims that kratom was actually killing people. And if you've ever taken kratom, which is a good kratom, again, I go back to Kelly Dunn and his product Urban Ice because it's legit. It's not laced. It's clean. It is 100% kratom if you're getting the capsules and things. And what he claims is, if you're doing it right and in a high dose, you're going to purge the product. Your body, it's impossible to overdose on kratom. If you get to a point of it, your body, you throw up. You just can't help it. So for people, everyone's levels are different. And it's hard to determine how much of, just with marijuana even, you could take THC, but how much do you know of the THC is actually in something, right? So you have to be really mindful, and more testing and more research and stuff will go into it, and then they'll be able to kind of dissect it more. But again, if you take too much, you'll just throw up. So these claims that were coming out about the product, again, to wean people off of pharmaceutical drugs, which I will 100% agree with you, not all drugs in the pharmacy are going to be bad. We need a lot of them as humans, to fight off certain infections and things with bacteria. I get that. I'm not trying to knock on the pharmaceutical industry. But when it came to this film, we just saw it firsthand. And we saw that his bank accounts would get frozen. They started doing all these claims. They would go in and do raids. There was a lot of pushback. And they started banning it in certain states, starting lifting bans. And he went through all of these legal procedures. He'd be a better person to talk to you on that side of it, because I don't know the full details. A lot of this happened after the film even. But the goal really was to get kratom lifted from a Schedule I drug into just a normal supplement, which it should be. I mean, for those who've taken, again, a clean version of it, there's not side effects like that were claimed.
So then, so you do this, and then so your journey of kind of siphoning through being the actress and working with Disney, and now you're kind of on the backside of things, and now you're doing these different projects and films, and again, really, with your work ethic and probably a little bit of your OCD with perfectionism, you continue to flourish and prosper as a woman entrepreneur and as a woman of impact. I mean, you clearly have garnished quite the social media followings for yourself, and you've done a lot of things that have been successful by anybody's standards of what success would be. And how do you continue to navigate the waters of what you're trying to do? How has success and then the different struggles you've gone through being part of the journey of coming to Florida and all those other things you've had to manage through? I mean, how has that, I guess, those things impacted you and what you're working towards doing? And then what's kind of on the docket for what you're continuing to put energy into and work towards?
Yeah. I think for us, moving to Florida was a huge wake-up call in a lot of senses. I think we had just wrapped up the film in California, and we were kind of feeling stale. And again, we had that thing that we had talked about, let's move to Florida. And once again, we started talking, it just happened. It was kind of, I think a lot of things in our life have been like that. You kind of manifest this idea, and then it just takes its own personality and it runs with your life. So I find that when we moved to Florida, we had these ideas of what we were going to do. We were going to focus on documentaries. We had 3 ideas in our mind. I was going to still be working part-time for the seafood company, so that would have given us some kind of income. Again, I don't like to leave a job without having some kind of financial gain. Well, that kind of was like an empty promise, and it ended up being a blessing because I had to learn from living in a state of chaos and thriving in this state of chaos to now trying to find the balance and realizing I can be successful without filling up my plate so much. I didn't have to work 8 hours a week. I didn't have to, prove my success to anybody. So I kind of had to shift the pendulum a little bit and come back to this place of not living in chaos. Does that make sense? I think so often, especially as women, we are always trying to prove ourselves in our industries. And I mean, probably not just women, everybody. And I think we get to a point where you don't have to work harder. You just have to kind of work a little smarter. And there's a way you can still generate income. I know that's cheesy. Everybody says it, but it really is so true.
It's just funny because it's true, but I just had this conversation with in a previous podcast I had done with a hip hop artist, and we were talking about working harder and then working smarter. And that was a point of conversation that we had for a while. And, I would say, what would you say, in the context here of working smarter, not harder too, did you find it harder for yourself, and maybe partially why you always worked harder to achieve the same goals as women that maybe did things more risque or were more willing to utilize their bodies to get them further ahead versus their mind, for instance?
I think if we're talking more like social media and like showing the body from a marketing standpoint, I understand why women and men, and I understand why the skin is in on social media. If you look at your insights and you go, if you have a business account or you're checking your demographic or your audience, you'll realize that people who are following, you get more engagement when you show your skin. And so for people who make social media their business, they have to make sure that engagement in that audience and their insights, when they show somebody who could be a potential sponsor for their page, they have to back up why they're an important person to have these other, sponsorships. So I understand, if that makes sense. I understand. Like for me, if I post a picture half naked, all of a sudden I go from 400 likes to maybe up to 6,000, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why does social media allow this to be something that's popular? Well, then you look at your following, most of your following is men. So, or for me at least, right? So for me, I started looking at...
Me too. You're following the men.
I started looking at the audience and I thought, okay, if I want to start targeting more female stuff, my audience has to shift a little bit. So it's all about understanding who that is. And some of the women will have a large female following. So when they start posting about, more masculine stuff, they might not get as much engagement. So it's just trying to understand where you fall and how you created the page and where you go from there. Now, I think there's a way to be strategic about it. There's a way to be organic with your posts. I mean, very easily, I could see how you could get trapped in taking your clothes off and being in a bikini and doing these things. And a lot of our clients do take that route because that's their business. That's their form of income. Supplements, weightlifting, bodybuilding, doing fitness competitions. I mean, I understand it, It just wasn't really the route I wanted to continue. I didn't feel like that's what I was meant to do here. I feel like I'm meant to do something bigger and better. And getting the audience was amazing. Like, I'm so grateful for the following I have. And the men that are on my page are very supportive when I post things that aren't fitness related and like showing my booty and all that stuff. I mean, I get it. But I do see that the number ratio is off a little bit because I need to build more of the female audience.
Well, and do you see just in your professional work life that women that, and I'm not even talking about social media. I'm just talking about like in the acting world and when you're when you're trying to excel yourself professionally, do you feel like you outdid everybody just because you were smarter? Or do you feel like, women that were willing to be more compromising, whatever that may have been, were able to get further ahead of you in certain things? Or do you think that was never a factor? Because each person has their own story, right? And some women that, that I know have said, yeah, when they were models or, actresses or whatever they did, they said, yeah, because I was more conservative, I lost out on opportunities where girls that weren't were able to excel because they were willing to do things I just wasn't willing to do?
I think I selected more of the auditions I would go out for. I didn't put myself in those situations to begin with. I would read the scripts before they came in. I would make sure that, my agents and managers, we were on the same page. I did do a scene with Anthony Anderson for Comedy Central where it was like this Jewish scene. He called us Jilfs. It was a hilarious scene. It was very well done. It wasn't inappropriate, but there was a scene where I take my shirt off and I'm in my bra and I'm like, just being this crazy Jewish woman in this scene. But to me, I didn't feel any way, I didn't feel it was inappropriate. I agreed to go on the audition knowing what the scene was going to be. So I think it kind of goes to this point with women, if I could give advice to them, is we always have a voice. And especially, I worked in an industry full of men with seafood. There aren't a lot of women in the seafood industry. It's just not as common there yet, but it is growing. And I think that if you're ever in a position for women, if they're ever in a position where they feel they're being treated differently or they're uncomfortable, it's okay to walk away from that job. It's okay to walk away from that opportunity. I don't feel like I don't know if it's like a guilt thing or women feel more insecure. I'm not really sure where that is, because if somebody had pressured me to that situation, I would have probably laughed in their face and walked away or quit the job. Or if I was realizing a male was getting paid more than I was in the same position, I would have gone into the office, knocked on the door and been like, hey, you owe me another X amount of dollars. It's not a game that I take lightly when it comes to my profession. And I wish more women would feel confident enough to speak up to these particular people who might be belittling them.
And do you think that that's what it boils down to, is that women as a whole just have less confidence than men as a whole, or women as a whole are more catty against each other versus men as a whole?
I think men can be more challenging. They like to challenge you. And I think if women aren't prepared or they're not aggressive enough, and it's not women's fault by any means. I just find that if you're going to go up against somebody in a professional, more intelligent realm, you have to be ready, because they negotiate all day long. But I think men are logical, women are more emotional. So if somebody says no to women, we take it personally. If someone says no to a man, they're like, well, screw you, I quit. Women are like, well, I don't know, I should. It's just more of this, maybe women tend to be a little more, I hate to say emotional because that's not the right word, but.
Well, I'm going to agree with you that it is true that women are more emotional than men. Men are more logical than women. And I can say that having all sisters.
Right.
My world is run by women. Mm-hmm. My businesses are women, and all my businesses, high-level people in those businesses are women. There are men, but there's definitely women. It's a good balance. And then, of course, like all my assistants are women. I'm married to a woman. I have a daughter, so I get it.
We're analytical, like we dissect things, we make meaning out of things, we create things.
Yeah, of course.
All right, whatever. See, I've got this other job. It's not, you guys don't very surfacey, where we're more detailed and obsessive.
Well, the other thing too is women as a whole are just you're emotionally more intelligent than men it's scientifically been proven women are far more emotionally intelligent, but women in general are actually just more intelligent than men.
Yeah.
So I'm a guy, so I'm knocking on myself here. Don't anybody get offended. You look it up. It's the truth. I'm not taking swipes at anybody. It's just life. So, and again, I oldest of 3, 2 younger sisters, both of them were very smart. And I do have learning disabilities, but, even taking those away, they just excelled when it came to book smarts. It was not it couldn't have been a competition. They were able to get A's with ease. I was freaking working my tail off to try and get B's. And, from moving into the professional world for me, I'm just really, really driven. And, I am a grinder, and now I've learned how to work smarter, but I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons and grow in my own ways. But, I would say too, one of my absolute I may say this rivals in it's easily it's a tough number one. Like I have 3 books that I put in like my top 3. My number 1 is A War Between Carol DeWick's Mindset, which may actually be the most influential and one of the best books ever. And I've read a lot of books, and it's a woman that wrote it. And I mean, how she approaches mindset, it first of all blew my mind, changed my life, right? Because now all of a sudden I look at my life and I'm like, well, there's 2 mindsets, right? So where for myself am I in a growth mindset, and then where am I not, right? And then now so I'm always in a growth mindset in everything, right? But I mean, the world's going to be run by women in 20 years. I mean, there's no question about it. Women outnumber men. What is it? 54% of the world is women right now, and 46% is men, and that's going to continue to. Listen, men are going to continue to drop. Women are going to continue to excel. It's not something that we're going to.
We don't really want to belittle men. I find that you need to have the balance of masculine and femininity. And I feel like it's been a huge shift to masculinity. And now we're kind of coming back to this strong feminine side. But eventually it's going to balance itself back. And we're all going to be in this kind of more equal state. It had to go so extreme and it had to go so extreme so we could come back to,
Right.
But most of my mentors in life, a majority of the ones, I've got amazing women in my life, but a lot of my mentors who have been a pivotal point in my career have been men. And I'm so grateful for them. And I never want to discredit, the role of a man when it comes to people.
100%.
Yeah, huge role.
Of course, yeah, it is. Well, another thing too is, it's not a competition, right? I mean, it really makes things a competition. If we just work together and, just things pan out better. And, that's really the other thing too is, and, you can tell me about your opinion on this, but do you find that like guys, sports just so easy, right? Like it's so easy for a guy can walk into a group of guys and we're all best friends in 10 minutes. And it's so simple. And we don't, in general, right? I would say in general, we don't go around talking trash behind each other's backs. Like we have a problem with each other, we say it to each other's face, but we do maybe, we have this laid back, easygoing personality when it just comes to life and stuff. But also I feel like we're always encouraging each other. And I did hear a talk on that too. And it was just guys are always, calling each other boss man and, stuff. And I do that all the time, even with my employees. I'm like, what's up, boss? I'm always, or, whatever other terms I use to build positivity into my guys. And I would say I don't call women that work for me boss. I do say things to empower them as well. But, they were saying how women don't ever say things to on a consistent basis to show each other. It's not going to walk around saying, what's up, queen, or I don't know what would be a better version. But there's a lot of cattiness, a lot of fighting, it seems like women as a group are quicker to kind of
yeah.
And the other thing too of I don't like to curse, so the B word, right? We all know what that is. And there's a lot of that, right? And it's not necessarily a term of endearment or perpetuating somebody up to a pedestal and it's not. I realize women use it in their own way, just we'll say, certain races will use certain terms with each other, but if another person from another race says it, it's a problem, right? Hit me with your thoughts.
Which part? Hold on. Is more on the idea of are women more emotional or name calling?
No, women are more emotional. It would be the building each other up versus tearing each other down. And do you think that that's a problem with the general population of women, or do you think the general population of women really have changed and they're really building each other up?
I think that women tend to be, again, more analytical. We overthink things completely in every aspect of everything we do. It's just in our nature. So if something text messaging alone can get so diluted these days. You don't know have you seen that Key and Peele? I'm probably butchering it, where they're texting and he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, hey man, what's up? It's just funny how you can misinterpret conversations, and everything is digital and texting and messaging. And I think if you catch someone in a bad moment, they can misinterpret words.
100%.
I do feel like women tend to be more emotional. I don't know if it's because we're more hormonal creatures, if we, kind of have these moments in our lives that, because I don't feel like I'm such an emotional person. I very rarely cry. I very rarely get angry, but there are moments of the cycle in the month where I become a different animal, and I don't feel like I can control it, and I'm a control freak. So if I'm all of a sudden like getting a little teary-eyed at something, or I find somebody sends me a message and I'm like, what the F does that mean? And really it's nothing. I don't know. I feel like sometimes we tend to lose control on the hormonal side. I hate to use that as an excuse, but if a woman off in a bad moment, it has nothing to do with the other person. It's their own projections of stuff, right? It's something that they're going through. And for a male, it's hard because you guys have to dissect it, and you can never do anything right. And you do something one day and then it's perfect. The next day it's wrong and you're doing the exact same thing. So I don't know. It's to break down the psyche, and understanding women emotionally is something I don't even want to go into on myself, because I don't think I'll ever find the answers. But I do feel like women tend to be more catty. I don't know if it's, I don't know if we're busy and we have to find something to do. And so we start creating these things that don't exist. I don't know. I'm guilty of it too, but I think to answer the other part of the question, I text a lot of my girlfriends and I'm like, hello, beautiful, or hey, love, or thanks, boo, or hey, boss babe, or, I always send I always try to encourage my female friends, because I think, and also my male friends, I just want to encourage everybody. I think there's plenty to go around when it comes to success.
But in the general context of women, do you think that that's normal? Like in the general context of the male population, that is normal. But is it normal in the context of, from your point of view, from the women population?
Talking, like encouraging and building each other up? I don't think so as much. I think it's getting more now that women are finding a little bit more of that confidence in themselves. And I think having female leaders kind of setting that standard for other females is really important in whatever industry it's in. But no, I don't think I don't see it that often in my own life.
Yeah.
It's more of an unloading. People always want to share. And it's not so much of, hey, challenging each other to be the best versions of themselves.
Well, because with Tara, I'll be careful. I don't want to throw my wife under the bus here. But I see some of that, right? Like, not that she watches a lot of these because she doesn't have time. So, but, she doesn't, when it comes to her interactions with guys, sometimes, her feathers get ruffled or whatever. There's only been one person in the entire time that we've known each other that was a guy where she was just like, F this guy, And he was not even American. He lived here now, but he had a business. She worked for one of his companies. And he was very chauvinistic. And he definitely, men got the preferred treatment. Women definitely got, on. Mm-hmm. And I saw it too, right? Like, it's not like it's something that it was actually, the sad thing was it was actually kind of obvious. And he was like that with all of his female employees. And that's partially why Tara had left that company, were some of the issues she was having specifically with him. But, going into like with women, I've seen her collide with other women much more, even in a professional setting, and have that I'm good with this chick. I never want to, deal with her again kind of thing, more than I have, obviously, I've only seen it with one guy. I've seen it with, there's been a few girls for sure.
Do you think it's because with men, so in the position where men feel a little bit more, they want to belittle women, is it because they don't have power or they don't have control, and that's their way of kind of talking down to certain people to make them feel alpha?
Well, I don't know if that's exclusive. If that's I think that there's just certain men, and this was an older gentleman. I just think that there's certain
generational
that they just have a view of women as being less than, right? Like my view personally, and it's my point of view. You can take it for what you want, but my point of view is that and this is not to take a dump on the male population here, but I just think that women should be put on that pedestal. And I put my wife on the pedestal, my grandmas, my mom, my daughter, all my female friends that my wife, of course, knows well, they all go on a pedestal. And it's because I just know that women in general are deserving of that, right? And I also look at myself as more of a servant anyways. Like even with my employees, like I do serve my employees. Yes, do my employees work for me? Sure. But like I do my best. I don't ask somebody to do something that I want to do, you know, and that's a big stance of mine. Like I don't tell my employees to do something if I'm not willing to do it. Right? If I'm not willing to do it, I'm not going to have you do it. I will do it first. Now, maybe it's not the most amazing thing and I'm going to do it for a long period of time, but I'll do it at least so I know what it's like. And of course, that's easier to do with smaller businesses, right? It's not like I have some massive corporation of 10,000 employees and 20 departments, and that's not realistic. But going back to the whole woman thing, I don't see why, as men, like, look, man came from woman, right? I mean, not to, sure. I'm a Christian, so I mean, I understand God made Adam and then made Eve, but after all that said and done, all babies came out of women from there on out. All right. So like, one of my big things is like, if you're taking a dump on women, like your mother, how you feel about her, right? You came from a woman. She birthed you, right? Yes, it takes two to tango. I get it. You got to have the man part involved, but you came out of a woman. And like, I know that everybody's got their own opinion, but my opinion is just like, hey, put everybody on a pedestal, but I feel like women deserve to be on a pedestal. You
very nice.
You all do a lot. You all do us a lot. And I think that as a man, and I'm guilty of it too, we take for granted at times what we've been blessed with, right? Like, and two, maybe it's a little bit still, we live in that world of like, we have the ideology of a man brings home the bacon and a woman, even though most women work now and most homes are 2-income homes, the man typically will work longer hours still. The woman will come home, get the kids, make dinner, clean the house, that kind of stuff. And I know that that's changing now, right? Definitely my home right now, I am definitely the nanny. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm doing laundry. And, again, we live in the coronavirus. My wife is working crazy hours and she doesn't have the ability she can barely feed herself. I'm downstairs. I make her lunch. I make her breakfast. I make her dinner. And on the nights that she makes dinner, she makes enough. So some nights I don't have to worry about it. We just reheat what she made the night before. And that's always nice. But, I think we do live in the world.
Female wife, though. I mean, I don't feel like the majority of women are as strong as Tara. So, I mean, are your sisters and your mom like that too, or do they tend to be a little more softer and like feminine? So you've seen both sides. You've seen all realms of female.
Yes.
What's your opinion?
That's what this is for, right? Like balancing should be coming from men empowering women, right? Like I really have taken that stance in a different way now. And part of what I want to do in the world in every aspect of what I do is empowering women. When I was training women at my gym, part of what I do is just helping them understand like, hey, you're killing it in the gym, you're killing life, continuously investing positively and putting them on those pedestals, right? Like my wife is my queen and she's on a pedestal over here, but I can still put other women on other pedestals. It's just different in how I go about that, right? I'm married to one woman. That's never going to change. And I'm faithful to one woman. That's also never going to change. But then, looking at like, again, I interact with hundreds, if not, I would say hundreds of women on a normal basis, but thousands of different women over the course of a year, every year, right? Because of all the different things I do. And like you said, one resounding thing is most, maybe not even most, but a majority, right? There's definitely more women that are timid and quiet and kind of like the meek versus the boss type women like yourself or like Tara. And I think part of it too is just, let's say mankind as a whole. Because think about all the countries still where women are still suppressed and they're still viewed as less than, or they're still the subservient, right? The whole Middle East, Latin countries, South America, right? Even still parts of the modernized Western world. But then if you look at like China and India and, where that is the majority of the world's population still, right? I mean, we got to accept that America, Canada, and a few other countries, we're kind of like the different style of thinking, right? And how we conduct life now. It's different. It's not like, and I've traveled all over a lot of the world. I've definitely seen that, right? So I don't speak from a spot of listening to other people. I speak from experience. And, I've lived in Mexico for a stint of time. I've been to South America. I've been all over Central America. I've been overseas, and I've seen it, right? Like I was on my honeymoon, and T can validate this story. We're in Puerto Vallarta, and we're driving, and this guy straight up open hand just smacked this woman he was with a couple times. And I grabbed the door handle and tried to get out, and Tara held me back and yelled at the driver to just gun it and wouldn't let me get out of the thing. I was like, what are you doing? Let me out. And she's like, no. She's like, I'm not letting you out. And I was like, what are you doing? And the guy is taken off now, so now I can't get out. She's like, look, I don't agree with you, but it's a culture thing, and I'm not letting you get out in Mexico and go tune him up, and then you're going to have to deal with the police. We're on our honeymoon. You're going to get arrested. Like, no. We had a little discussion about it, and I was super, super hot. And if she hadn't grabbed me, I would have tuned him up. But the worst part is, though, I haven't gotten to the worst part. It's not like he did it in a back alleyway and I just caught the side view. He did this in a public place where there were people around, watched it, and continued on with their life like nothing was going on. And, man, you know me well enough. Like if I see injustice, man, I'm gonna step up. And before, she's tried to hold me back a couple of times in life, not successfully, but she tried. But I feel that as a man, my role in life is also to protect women and children, the elderly, people who can't defend themselves, the weak, the sick, right? I am an able-bodied, healthy, youngish man. And
women can also be aggressive and could beat their husband.
But you don't see that as much, right? And again, we live in a special place. We live in a place where that stuff is, dude, we live in a place with a lot of freedoms and civil liberties that most places don't have. I mean, that's just the reality. Right. And again, in the world where women the majority of women still live in countries where they're suppressed to some extent.
Let me ask you this question. This to kind of go back on, because we were saying that some women can be more meek, some can be more aggressive. If Tara went up against kind of more of a meek female for a job role, and Tara was aggressive and she went in there and she fought for what she wanted and she put together a presentation and she did all this work and all this research on this position, and she said, this is what I want for the role, and the same girl went in and did the same thing, would you feel like they should be paid the same amount? If this one didn't prepare at all, didn't put together a presentation?
No, of course not.
So
I always reward work. And I think that's why I love doing these things, and I love having you, because you worked hard for what you have, right? Like, despite whatever obstacles have come in your way, you've still figured a way around it. And I do think two things. First, quieter, more meek women are always going to get stepped on.
Yep.
And they're always going to, and it goes back to boundaries and all that stuff, right? They're always going to come second. They're not going to get the jobs that they want. And then, but on the other side of that too, women that are willing to compromise themselves tend to get there's a lot of times where and I don't necessarily even know that they get much further ahead, but their perception of getting much further ahead, or they're getting opportunities right out the gate, eventually they're going to be, look, guys talk. Eventually they're going to be that girl that, we used her, abused her. She was great for a little while. Now she's off. I think that there is a space, obviously, for the women that respect themselves. Let me rephrase this. I don't think. There is definitely a space for the stronger women that are working hard, working smart, doing it the right way. They will get theirs. Not always as fast as the ones, but then the fall for those people too that compromise themselves is a big fall, and that happens quite frequently. Right.
But is it fair? Maybe not. I mean, they're both doing the same position. This one maybe is more introvert, can't speak up. This one's more extrovert and more aggressive.
But you get rewarded for what you do, right? Like you have to be present and known to get rewarded. If you're always hiding in the background, I mean, the reality is, you're not going to get what the person in the front of the office constantly putting it in and letting them know. It's just because how much attention can you give in everything, right? Like as an employer myself and having had, you know, in my business is having a lot of employees. Yes, the people that are going to be getting bumped up a bit are the ones that are constantly in my ear, constantly like, hey man, we did this, what do you need here? What do you like? Okay.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of where men are more, they fight a little bit harder than maybe a woman? A woman might be like, okay, I'm working, I'm doing my job. My focus is.
I would say yes, for people that are 30, mid 30s like ourselves and up. But when you look at like mid 30s and, you know, young 30s and down, not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody's in the same handicap now because of technology, because kids are growing up used to just texting the whole time. Like, dude, I can't tell you how many kids let me give you this story. I posted a job interview, and I do this on a regular basis because I'm in a constant need of, as I grow my company's employees. But I'll post a job interview. I'll have 60 applicants for 5 spots. Actually, I'll turn off at 60 because I can't keep trying to, it's just too much. And I don't even do this anymore. I have my assistants do it because it's such a waste of my time now. And I get so frustrated. But I'll call every single person. I'll take 5 minutes of my day, talk to them, some quick questions, make sure that it's even worth them coming in for an interview. Look, this is the job. This is the pay. This is the schedule. Can you do it? Yes. Schedule the interview. I will have, if everybody has their interviews, I text them the night before, hey, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, this time, this place, boom. If they are 30 or younger, it's 95% chance they're not even going to show up.
No, why?
If they are 31 and older, and I wouldn't even say that, I would say if they're 35 and older, there's a 90% chance they're going to show up. The 10% that don't show up usually at least communicate to me that they couldn't make it in some way or another. I would say, you know, it's very rare that they don't communicate. But 30, I mean, for sure, 32, 33, 34 and younger.
Generational, you think? I mean, I hate to use it as an excuse because I feel like everyone says millennials. It's just, do you think maybe it's a different, what do you think it is, actually? I don't even want to put words in your mouth. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of things, and I think that that's an entirely separate
part of the
right? Because I mean, I'm in that world of youth too, right? In multiple businesses of mine, but I think there's 5 to maybe even 8 major factors that play into that now. But so when I look to hire people, I have internship programs for all my businesses now. And this is how I actually funnel out who I want to even offer jobs to. For my gym business, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think the last 5, maybe 6 people we hired were all interns.
Oh,
they were really freaking good, including the one girl that we were going to hire. And then obviously we couldn't because of the coronavirus. But yeah, they were all interns. And that's how I was like, dude, from now on, if we need a job, I'm not taking people I don't know. We take interns. And I told my partners that. I was like, look, man, this is how it is. I'm not doing the song and dance anymore. We're not going to have our assistant wasting her time, our office manager wasting her time. None of that. We take interns. And if we don't have any interns, then we'll give more work to the employees we have and we'll figure it out. But we are no longer just hiring people in and, you know, figuring out. We're taking people that we've indoctrinated, they understand the world they're getting into, we're giving them the jobs. And it's worked out great. It was actually the best employees I've had for the majority of it, minus maybe 1 coach interns.
Yeah, it's smart. Right. Smart. Were they paid internships?
No. Yes and no. It depends on what it was. But no, typically internships aren't paid. And, you know, these are college kids that have to fulfill, requirement. We're not taking, 42-year-olds that lost a job and putting them in an internship. We're taking kids that are post-college or they're in their senior year or junior year, and they're working towards this, and this is part of their curriculum. Like I had to do a 500-hour internship to get my degree. And that was the last quarter or whatever. It was the summer quarter for school, but it was great. And I got, a contract job out of it until I moved to California. But, an internship, for us, it's not just about finding people that can do, it's not like we bring them in and we're like, hey, you're now coaching, this is what you're doing, right? We bring them in, we educate them. I mean, the amount of resources and time and investment we put into them is crazy. I had an employee who was specifically in charge of our internship program, which me and my partners had put together. It was a very comprehensive program. It was really educational based and really helped them. And then we look, it's consistency, right? Like, how did they present themselves when they come to work every day? How they interact with us? How they interact with their clients? Are they responsible? Do they do all the things? Do they do above? Right? We track all the little things, like how's their attitude, energy, all the things that you want to have in good employees, right? And that's how we figured out which ones we liked and we would offer jobs to. And the same in my basketball organization, although it's not per se an internship because usually the coach is a little bit older, but there is an indoctrination period. And there's a period where we go through the interviews. They show up to a skills academy class with a coach. They then shadow, they do a practice with a coach. They come to a game. All that is unpaid because we want to see, are you committed? Because I used to just pay people right out the gate, and I just can't tell you how many times I got bit in the butt or had a bad experience. And I'm just, through life, you're going to figure out what works best for you and what you're doing. And I just know what works best for my companies and how I've done it and how I've grown them and how we've been able to filter through the riffraff. And it's been enjoyable. It's been productive that way. I still every once in a while, maybe I have a need for a coach and I didn't have a pipeline of guys, and I'll put something on Indeed and I'll get blasted by 1 million people and I'll kind of take the top 20 and we start there. And oh man, but that's just, it's a challenge, And girls, another thing too is females tend to be more responsible than males, right? If a female can't show up, they text me, they call me. Below the, in the phase or in the rate I'm talking about, right? 34 and younger, where I have a lot of issues. It's always the guys, to be honest, that don't communicate with me for the most part. And there are some girls that don't too, but majority for sure guys over women. Like for the women, and again, I'm in male dominated industries. So my frustration is going to be aired out more towards the male population anyways. But for the few females that do come through, if they can't make it, they do communicate that. And they're more responsible anyways. But, there's still a little bit of it anyways. But, we can get into a whole different segment for sure about.
I have a question for you because you've been talking to a lot of women, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure this has been brought up. But I think, at what point, two things I want to ask you about. One, do you feel like women should still hold a sense of femininity while also being a little bit more aggressive and alpha in positions, to be able to be what they quote boss babe, that top tier of a woman, right? Do they have to lose a side of the feminine side to be that? Or is there a role for women to still be girly, but also be?
Well, I really do think that, look at Tara. Tara is stunningly beautiful and she's a boss babe, right? Yeah. I mean, in the higher, I think I'm a decent looking guy. I married up, man. I got so blessed.
He's beautiful.
I met that chick. We got married real. I mean, our story. We got married 4 months after we met. I was not letting that one pass me up. But for sure, right? Like Tara's definitely a feminine woman, and I know because I live with her. And I recognize that I have to always tell her we have to be somewhere 45 minutes earlier than we have to be so we can get there 10 minutes late versus an hour late. But yes, I think that because I also know a lot of women that are A-type women but are so well put together. They're beautiful. They're feminine, right? And I guess what's your ideology of femininity? But we're on the same page with that. So to explain to anybody listening, like a woman that takes pride in her looks and her appearance and takes care of herself, right? In shape, takes nails, hair, face, all that stuff, right? Dresses. I mean, you're a beautiful woman too. Your husband's a very lucky guy. And you're a boss, right? And you are a driven person. But I would never say, if anybody ever came to me and said, yeah, she's not that feminine, I'd be like, we're not talking about the same person then. I think you're a very feminine person. And I've been blessed with building a relationship with you and your husband over the years. But, even there was a woman out on their podcast, her name's Lauren House, beautiful, beautiful woman as well. A-type, she's a boss, driven. And I would say that a lot of the women involved in my life at this point, friends, I'm not going to say any of my employees or anything, but just my female friends. I mean, a lot of them are in their young to mid 30s, and they are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. My wife has crushes on all of them, and they are A-type, for the most part, boss type women, and they're gorgeous. And, unfortunately, I did a podcast earlier about being a real man. There's just not a lot of real men out there anymore. There are lots of males. I don't put the two in the same. A man and a male are vastly different.
What's a real man? What's a real male? What do you consider that?
A real man? You're married to one.
But what would you? My man, for sure. But what would qualify for people like? Because I wasn't on the other podcast. Like how explain to me what a real.
Well, a real man is a person that, man, you're asking a question. This is going to be a long answer, but in my opinion, which I'm going to say is the right opinion for sure when it comes to men versus males, right? Males are the boys that never grow up, right? Life is about partying and sleeping with women and getting drunk or going out with your boy, like no sense of real responsibility, just the, lack of respect for others. It's all about them, what I want to do. They don't care how they impact other people, like that kind of stuff, right? Immature, lack of responsibility, those kinds of things. And not that we're all boys at some point, right? And we all go through our own growth things, but a man, vastly different than a male who's never going to, and the world has got plenty of males. They're never going to be men. But there's a lack of men to build and grow men, which is why I love working, and why I only had a boys only basketball club for so long. So I could invest in young boys and help them turn into young men. Obviously now I have girls and boys, but I mean, a huge part of what I love and why I love working with youth is to be that coach that help people become young men and young women, right? Because there's lots of, I will even use the term woman. I only address people that I really think are women and say that is a woman there. Otherwise, it's a lady, a chick, a girl. Because it's the same thing. There's some girls that never grow up either, right? And we know what they look like. And it's not meant to be disrespectful. I understand that not everybody gets great role models or examples in life, but it's just simple stuff a lot of times, and it is taking some level of consideration of others. But for instance, I'm very, very strict, and I'm sure you've heard about it, but I'm very strict with how I am outside of where my wife may be involved. All my devices are synced, so she sees every text that comes through, every message, social media, email. My wife has 100% unrestricted access to everything. And I involve my wife in everything. And let's say you're like, hey, you know what, Steven, I'm in LA. I would love to meet up and have a drink with you. Of course I'm going to come meet up and have a drink with you. And Tara's going to be there, right? Let's say David couldn't be there, okay? And let's just say for argument's sake that Tara was gone for the night. And you call me up, hey, I'm in LA. Let's hang out. Let's get a drink. I would love to see you. I can't though unless we get another person there because Tara can't be there and David's not there. It's not because you and I are going to a hotel and we're going to hook up. It's not because we're going to make out. It's not because there's going to be anything other than us sitting down and having our normal conversation and getting to hang out with each other. It's because of the perception from the outside world that there's two people here. You do have a wedding ring. I have a wedding ring. So it looks like we're married. We take our wedding rings off and somebody sees us. Now it looks like we're cheating. We're not going to win in this, right? It's a perception. And more importantly, it's a way to constantly protect. Yes, me and David know each other. Yes, you and Tara know each other. We're all friends. David isn't going to care. Tara's not going to care. It's not about whether they care or not. And you might not even care. It's not even about that. It's about I want to do everything in my power to protect my concrete foundation and have zero cracks ever, right? So if I do meet with a woman, which I do meet with women without my wife being there, it's always in the daytime in a public setting, and I meet them there. I text her when I leave to get there. I text her when I get there. She knows who it is, where we're at, everything. And my phone's synced to her, so she knows where I'm at all times anyways. Then when I leave, I text her that I left, and then I text her when I get to my next place. She doesn't even ask. She thinks I'm crazy most of the time. I'm crazy about her. I do it as a form of protection. Yeah. I am protecting my foundation, and my marriage is arguably one of the most important things to me. It's faith, my marriage, in that order, faith, marriage. Okay, so because of that, I will never do anything to jeopardize. Now, I have had instances where one of my dear friends, Callie, she lives here and she doesn't live far from us. I've known her since my freshman year in college. So we've known each other for 20 years. And I won't even meet with Callie if Tara's not there or it's not during the daytime. Right now, there was a situation. Tara was in New York. Callie had her birthday. And I was like, look, it's Callie's birthday. I always do something with her. She doesn't like to celebrate herself and stuff. It's a different story for a different day. But long story short, I want to obviously spend time with her. And so I was like, T, I'm in this conundrum. Callie doesn't have a boyfriend. She's not dating anybody right now. I really want to do something for her. She doesn't have any family here. You're not here. Is it okay if I invite her with some of her friends to come to the house and then we go out for a couple of drinks and then call it a night? And Tara's like, of course, I don't care. I was like, perfect. I just want you to know first. I'm going to ask Callie if she has a couple of friends she wants to bring. And Callie did. She brought one of her girlfriends and one of her guy friends. It was a great night. We had a blast. But there were other people there the entire time, right? And that's my big thing. Like if we're going to go out and get a drink together, as long as there's a third party, if it's not David and it's not Tara, as long as there's just a third party, and I'm not going to come pick you up, I'll meet you there. And again, it's just that protection, right? So
like the same thing. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I respect that a lot. I think David and I had to have this conversation in our business profession at some point because there were days where I was working corporate America and he'd have to go on a bikini shoot with one other female and I'd see the photos and I'm thinking, I trust my husband more than any man on this planet. He is a wonderful man. I would never have married him if I thought otherwise. Right. But I don't necessarily would trust the other party. So I said, just especially in today's day and age, don't be alone with just you and a woman because they could say certain things that you did or the pictures come back. Oh, he forced me to do that. It's to protect.
100%. I mean, again, you're protecting our foundation and you bring up great points too, right? But, in the context of he knows Tara, right? If Tara was like, hey, I'm going to meet up with Dave for a drink, you're like, at the end of the day, it doesn't actually bother me. And Tara has. It's different for me though, just because of everything that I do and because people recognize me. I'm a recognizable person at this point in life because of everything I have done. I don't hold Tara to that same standard, mind you. But now that she's been married to me long enough, she holds herself to that standard. And no influence to me, by the way. She has met up with males in the past by herself for a drink somewhere. Mm-hmm. I trust my wife. Tara's never going to cheat. I don't worry about that. But it's different because she's not in the same light that I am. So I didn't care. But again, over the years, she's just seen, I've never wavered from these things for myself. And so she just changed.
You protect what you guys have worked so much and you've built your marriage and your family and your faith and everything around this bubble that you don't want anything, one little crack and all of a sudden you've got water leaking and then the entire glass.
100%.
You just have to be, and you're really good about that. You and Tara have always been really good. And people look up to you guys and I'm sure they admire your marriage, but see it as work. And that's what marriage and relationships, before we got married, because people would say, oh, it's a lot of work. Well, what does that work mean? That was always something I was curious. What is work? Because I don't want to have to make it a chore to be in love with my partner. But I realized over the years, kind of this example you gave, it's important to be transparent with your partner. And that takes work because oftentimes we forget. Sure. Hey, I arrived, or hey, I'm leaving, or hey, so-and-so from my past just texted me. I just want to let you know. Things like that just to keep.
And that has happened. An ex-girlfriend.
Of course it happens.
Contacted me and I told Tara, I was like, hey, look, this happened. I showed her, and I gave her the phone. I was like, here's the text messages are up to you. You read them if you want. She said, I don't care. I don't want to read them. Now, later that person and I, and she contacted me for a very.
Sorry, it's 8:00. Can you hear those sirens?
Yeah.
So at 8:00 in Florida, we all do a big celebration for the first responders. And so that's what you're hearing. The cops, the police, anyway, that's what's happening for coronavirus. So Thank you to nurses and doctors and first
Yes,
responders.
exactly. Modern day
Nurses.
heroes for sure.
Wow, but it'll happen.
Yeah, so this ex-girlfriend contacted me. Her mom got cancer, wanted me to pray for her stuff. That's fine. No issues. We briefly caught up a little bit. It was quick. And then she had touched base with me, or I touched base with her a couple times to check in about her mom and who I had been really close to. And then, she had reached out to me at another point. And the conversation, and there are little things that had come up through text messages that just put off little signals in my brain. I just navigated through that. And then eventually she did, ask some questions about our relationship and why I'd broken up with her and stuff. And then she did ask, like, do you share these, do you tell your wife about me? I said, she knows of course she knows about you. She said, well, does she know that we've texted? I said, of course she does. I give her the phone afterwards.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, I wish I would have had that or something like that. I was like, you're in a relationship, you guys will work it out. But, I answer to one woman, and that is my wife. And I'm not going to be shady. Look, if there was a text that I'm not proud of, okay, I am a man. I'm going to take responsibility for it. I'm going to go sit down with T, and we're going to have that hard discussion. And yeah, am I going to feel good about it? No, having hard discussions aren't fun. I don't enjoy that. I'm a people pleaser, but my marriage is more important. So am I going to have a hard discussion and get over it with her? Yeah. Am I going to accept responsibility for a mistake? Of course. But that's why I'm very careful. And again, my wife, I keep nothing from her. So that crack ain't going to happen. That little leaky faucet, not going to happen. There were a couple of guys I looked up to who cheated on their wives. And I listened to them in a interview they had done over it. And they talked about how they didn't just wake up one day and want to cheat. And they said, it just started as, a relationship that flourished with a woman, conversation, they continue to build. Maybe now there was a little touch here or there. Maybe the conversation went a little further than it should have, but it was little things. And they said, they equate to, it was a leaky faucet, right? The faucet was just not turned off all the way, and there was this little drip. Well, at first the drip means nothing, but then that drip filled up the bathtub, and then that bathtub started to overflow and flood the bathroom, which then began to flood the house because this drip never turned off. And then you have a ruined house because the water got everywhere and ruined everything. That was one of the best analogies. I'm sure for a lot of people that do have these issues and of faithfulness, it's probably very much what these two individuals went through. And again, reinforcing why I do what I do, right? And, again, look, men use their power to persuade women to do things that they might not want to do otherwise. We live in the world of Jeff Epstein and Harvey Weinstein and all these men of power that are now being dethroned, essentially. And we see how men have used their power to manipulate women and get what they want. And again, that's one of my big things about what we're doing now and just promoting and building and talking about how amazing women are. And you don't need to do these things to find your voice, to find your power, to be successful. Work hard, work smart, love yourself, know who you are, and go get it. And you don't have to compromise your values for things. And I'm very careful. Like, even when I'm training women, man, there were 14 cameras in my gym, every angle. Believe me, you're not going to catch me on the low touching a woman where I shouldn't be. Now, do accidents happen? 100% they do. Has there been a time in life where I had to act quickly? Maybe I grabbed a woman in a spot I didn't mean to. Yeah, when I'm trying to grab a woman from falling with weights in her hands and she's going to get hurt, I'm sure that's happened in life. But that's not an intentional thing. And I would I've apologized. But a basketball coach, right? I'm a basketball coach. I do coach high school girls. I am always so very careful with my hands. And I tell every girl on my team and every parent, look, I am a coach. I will scrimmage with you guys because at times it's going to happen. If my hand ever hits a spot that was unintentional and I didn't know it and it made you uncomfortable, I would like you to let me know, and I would like to have a sit down with you and your parents so we can talk about it quickly and make sure we're all good, because your safety is priority and your comfortability is a priority. And I would never want to put you in a spot that you didn't feel comfortable, and understand that I would never want to do something that would make you feel less than. Yeah. And I'm always very careful. Have girls jumped into me and I've hit something? I mean, at the end of the day, yes, it's happened. Do I feel good about it? Of course not, and that's not my goal, right? But I also don't treat girls like they're, I also have this thing like they're a basketball player, right? And a basketball player should be treated like a basketball player, whether it's a girl or a boy. Yes, I'm still mindful of my hands. Like for guys, I give, like my high school guys a smack on the butt when they do a good job. I do not do that with my girls, right? So there is certain things, right? Like that, we have to make small adjustments for. But I mean, there are male coaches that do that with their girls. And I'm just like, yikes. And I've heard of coaches being fired over it or other issues, right? And it's just like, we live in a world where maybe some things were okay at one point in life. It's not, and I wouldn't want a grown man smacking my daughter in the butt, right? Oh, in high school, saying good job. And I was just like, man, if I'm not comfortable with it with somebody else and my own daughter, why would I at any point think that's acceptable to do to somebody else's daughter?
Right.
And the same thing with women, right? Like listen, first of all, I'm not perfect and I'm not an angel, and I do have some regrets in life when it comes to girls I've dated and whatnot. However, I can look at my life and be pretty happy that I always treated them with respect for the most part. Like I've had a couple situations that escalated further than I was hoping, and I had to, I guess, maybe react in a way that I wasn't excited about, but I don't know how I could change those things. It's still a regret. I think I regret just having gone as far in the relationship, maybe with the woman that I was dating or whatever too. But I've always tried 100% of my time. Look, I love my mom. I love my grandmas. I love my sisters. I love women. I respect women. And my goal is always to empower women and give women a voice and promote the amazingness of what they bring to the table. And so I really try hard not to, nobody's perfect. I try hard not to have to look later in my life and be like, oh man, all these girls, all these, and just even going back to when we talked about the definition of a man, like, look, I was a collegiate and amateur professional athlete. I could have had sex with, there were women girls lined up outside the locker room to sleep with us after games. Not every game, but there were. We got in trouble a couple of times with our coach over the whole thing. I had girls come up straight to me and be like, hey, I want to take you home. And I'd be like, that's not my thing. I got smacked. I got straight up slapped in the face because they thought I was just turning them down. It's like, I'm just not that kind of guy. Like I was a virgin until I was, 25, I think 25. And that was by choice. I was doing fine in college. I dated a lot of girls, but I kissed girls. I just didn't go further than that. And, part of it's a respect thing. Part of it is based on my faith too. And but the other thing too is like, I didn't get married till I was 31. And again, got married pretty quick. I can tell you, I didn't have sex with a lot. Now I'm not proud of the fact that I wasn't a virgin until I got married. And if my mom's listening to this, I'm really sorry, but my numbers are low. You know what I'm saying? Like I kept them low because I do respect women. I didn't just sleep with women on the first date. And I think that's important. I didn't want women to go out with me and think that I'm buying you dinner and taking you on a nice date. You owe me sex. That's not respectful too, like I've always, and I specifically did not go out with lots of women for a second date because they wanted to have sex with me right after the first date. Look, and I also know I'm not that special, right? Like I know I'm a pretty amazing man, but if you're willing to sleep with me on the first date, how many other guys have you slept with on the first date? Okay. And how many more are you going to sleep with on the first date? That's just, and it's a lack of respect. And I don't want that in my life. And, again, I just have a different view, I suppose, than a lot of people of women. And I'm just very aware of that. And I want to be very careful. Right. And so it's just every aspect of my life. And again, I have a lot of really amazing females in my life. And, other example, which is great, is so I have a client. She's awesome. Tara knows her well. We're all friends. She was in crazy pain, could barely walk. she texts me, Steven, I can't walk. Like I'm in so much pain. I was like, well, just come over to the house. Tea's here, you're going to want to wear like a loose fitting shirt, a bra that I can unstrap, or you can unstrap, or Tara can unstrap in the back so I can cup you. Like we have the little massage gun. Right. And I was like, look, come over. We've got these oils that have like different stuff in them, CBD and stuff. And I was like, look, just come over. We'll work on you. Tara's here. My daughter's here. I'll help you out. So she comes over, Tara helped her and everything. And then she just laid on the couch and Tara was right there. And because of where the pain was and stuff and where we had to put the cups on it, we had to, she just had to pull her pants down a little bit. And it's like, Tara's here for all that. Right. And Tara helped her. So the fact that Tara was here, I was like, cool, I will be more than happy to have you at my house and help you because Tara is right here and Tara's involved. Right. And even if she's not the one doing all this stuff, she's standing right there, and so there's a level of comfortability for everybody. And this person too is a very conservative woman herself, which is great. So, it was fine. She came over, I worked on her for 45 minutes. She could walk afterwards, which was awesome. And, but it's those kinds of things, right? Like at all times, communicating what's going to happen, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, right? I'm not just trying to cop extra feels because I want to, for whatever strange reason, I have a wife. If I really want it, if I really need to have some sort of physical interaction, she's more than happy. That's what she signed up for life. So, but it is all those things, right? Because I see it all the time, like guys that give a girl a hug that's married, his wife's there, but maybe his hand went really low. And I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Like you see that stuff all the time, at least here still where I'm at in Orange County, and that's also why I'm really selective in my friends. I have guys that I was friends with, cheat on their wives, didn't really feel remorseful about it. And I was like, cool, man, do you? Bye. And I just cut them out of my life. I've lost financial money for that because I've cut trainers out of my gym when we were renting space for those reasons. I don't deal with that stuff because, again, guilty by association is a true thing. If you hang out with a bunch of crappy people that are down to do crappy things, you're going to be influenced to do things you wouldn't normally do. Maybe you're not going to go the full length of doing something, but you're still going to be negatively influencing your decision-making. You cannot look, I am a positive influencer person, and I'm not dumb enough to think that you stick me in a room of 10 other guys and they're all shady people and doing shady stuff that somehow that's not going to affect me in a negative way. Right. Yeah. I'm not going to probably do some of the things they've done, but this is still like, it's too risky. You're playing with fire. I'm not down with that. I don't want to play with fire. I know what it's like to get burned. I'm not into that anymore. I don't want to get burned, especially when it comes to my marriage.
Yeah.
So it's want to be fireproof, right? You want to be bulletproof or whatever term you want to use, but I want to protect that foundation of my marriage. And again, I think women just put up with way too much nonsense, man. I think that women are so desperate because they've been told that to be a woman, you have to be married and have kids. And so they're in such a rush to find someone to give them a baby and marry them that they end up with people they know they shouldn't have married in the first place. And there's a reason why the divorce rate is so high. There's a reason why the divorce rate is going to skyrocket after the coronavirus is over, but it's like, why not take the extra time? And then you have all the people too that just constantly dating for whatever reason. Like, learn to be okay with yourself and be still with yourself. If you can't be single for 6 months or a year and be happy with yourself and like be happy, not fake, be happy with yourself, you should not be in a relationship. I've broken up with girls over that because they went from relationship to relationship to relationship. And I was like, dude, you don't even know who you are. Take a 6-month break and let's talk after 6 months. Figure it out. Like, I made peace with who I was. And I've been single most of my life. I was like girl repellent when I was a kid. Okay. It wasn't until after high school girls really were like, ooh, how you doing? That was not my experience until college. All right. I was rejected. Girls didn't want to be in the same room as me growing up, unless they were my sister's friends, and it's because they had to be. So it's important, I guess, with all these different little tangents and stories. I mean, the main focus is, look, it's important for me as a man to utilize my voice and my influence to constantly build up people, right? And women being a part of that, right? And recognizing that there's not the same, I guess, widespread view yet. But we both know, look, change can happen with one person. One person can make a difference. And I know that. And I hate listening to all these freaking naysayers that say, one person can't make a difference. Gandhi was one person. Changed the world. Mother Teresa was one person. Changed the world. Bill Gates is one person. Changed the world. Steve Jobs is one person. So for everybody that wants to say one person cannot make a change, bring that noise.
Yeah, I think one person, the power of one person is huge.
So, I don't know. My passion is definitely to build others. And really part of that is to continue to build women and their confidence, their voice, their ability to know that, look, you be patient, have a standard, hold people to that standard. There would be a lot more men, I think, if women held us to a standard. Because, look, guys are weak too. And there's not a lot of men. So you don't have a lot of positive influences of men directing men, and I really hope that I can continue to be a good influence there too and really help make men. But in the interim of that too, while that happens, look, I'm only going to have so much. At this point, I only have so much influence, right? Maybe one day I will be one of those guys that has a voice that carries over the, billions of people. But until that time, one person at a time, you make changes in one person's life.
For women who might be stuck in certain situations or who have made mistakes or have regrets or feel guilty about things, just know that we've all been there. I mean, every human being on this, every woman has been in every situation you could probably even think of. But try not to get stuck in that moment and held up and being the victim in a certain situation, because women we're strong human beings capable of anything in this entire world. And so I just hope that women feel like I've made mistakes. I've been in situations where I was like, why didn't I leave? Why didn't I speak up? Why didn't I do this differently? But those have been some of the biggest lessons in my career and my personal life and my relationships. I've learned so much about myself and to never be in that situation ever again, because I know how it made me feel. Instead of kind of meddling in that space and saying, well, this is where I am, this is what I did, and living there. Don't live there. Get out of the box and be who you're supposed to be. Don't get stuck being this person that you are regretting who you were. Because we've all been there. And it sucks and it's not fun. And I've been in those places. And it's just important to step out and climb that mountain and get over it.
Yeah.
And not get over it, but get over the mountain,
Well, I think that's a big thing though, is people need to learn to give themselves grace and forgive themselves and then take it as a lesson. We've all made mistakes, and I've admitted that I've made lots of mistakes in my life, and you do learn your lesson and you pick yourself up and you carry forward. But that's what defines us as people, right? That's what defines the women that we're going to know as these strong, empowering leader, boss babes, as opposed to the women that we never hear about are the ones that we see on the news crying foul about everything and they're victim about everything. Look, if you've had bad things happen to you, if you've been raped, you've been molested, you've been physically beaten, first of all, that's not your fault either, and get help, because you deserve the same love that everybody else has, and you have the same intrinsic value that everybody has. Everyone has value. There is not a person on this planet that has no value.
Yeah.
And get help.
Let it be your story to help other people, because other people may be in that situation and don't know what to do and how to get out of it. So don't be quiet about it. Speak up, have a voice, find your platform. Social media you can have a platform. Even if you have 5 followers, that's 5 people who are truly engaging with you. I think people get so caught up in the numbers game of things, and especially being like a marketing person. I get it. I track numbers. That's what I do. But for the average Joe Schmo, it doesn't matter. If you have 5 people that are commenting and liking and messaging you, focus on those people, because those are what start the fire. And then you just build a platform for free. And you have, so, and also one of the things I like to tell people, like kind of the advice I like to give, not just women, but everybody, is be careful who you listen to. Because a lot of times, like for us, we were moving to Florida. Everyone's like, don't move to Florida. Why would you move to Florida? Oh, Florida. We were told to come here. We listen to that little calling in our hearts, and we say, you know what? It's not in our control anymore. We're being called out to Florida. We don't know what that is. We're going. And you just know that your parents and people who love you are always there to protect you from suffering. They don't want you to make mistakes because they want to protect you. But if there's something that you're feeling in the pit of your stomach and it's saying go or do this or say this or act on this, do it. And don't look back and don't apologize. I've always learned to trust my gut, listen to my own instincts, because they have never, ever left me astray. The only thing I've ever regretted is not listening to myself. Nope. And so you're being told to write a book. Write a book. You're being told to start a business, then do it. Like, figure out how to do these things, because that's maybe going to lead you down a path to open up doors that you don't even know are possible. But don't push it aside because someone's telling you that you're 1 in a million or that you're not going to be successful at it. Who are they to tell you that? It's a projection. People project their own fears into people's lives. So just be really careful who you're listening to. So that's my advice. You didn't ask, but I'm just sharing.
Well, no, I love it. And I appreciate your time so much. And I know we got to wrap up here, but thank you. As always, it's a blessing having you. I appreciate you so much. And again, you're such an amazing person. And I want you to tell everybody again, how can they follow your journey and if they want to reach out to you? Because, you're such an amazing person and you have so much, just positive stuff to invest, just to help people. So how can they reach you?
Well, I'm always open. I love helping people. I love listening to people's stories. And so if anyone ever wants just advice or critiquing or constructive criticism on anything, please shoot me a DM or reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram at Stefani Baca, and that's STEFANI BACA. That's on Instagram. But also, just to tag one little thing, David and I have been working on a series in Florida called Miami Made. That's going to be releasing after this coronavirus. We've been trying to lock it all down. And we're actually trying to give people platforms out here who haven't normally had one, just to try to showcase the people that are doing good in the world. We hear so much negativity. So keep an eye open for that. We're going to be posting it on YouTube and our business page, which is My Tai Productions. So that's MAITIE. I know it sounds like maybe, but it's My Tai Productions with an S. So keep in touch. We love you guys. And thank you so much, Stephen, for this platform. I really, really appreciate the support.
I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to seeing all that. And folks, for listening, thank you so much. You're with Stephen Beseda and my podcast, Get It, on the Social Nostra Network. And as always, you can reach me on my Instagram, which is SSBESEDA. And I respond to all my messages, and I've responded to all my messages today. Thank you so much for the love you guys have shown. Please feel free to contact me whenever you want. And for our new viewers, this is the second podcast we've done together. So please go ahead and look through the first one, which you'll see Stefani in the title there, and really the first part of our journey we took, so you know how we got to this spot. And I'm sure we'll be doing another one of these pretty soon too, because it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed your time and being able to do this with you, and looking forward to, of course, doing this again. And
shirt you wear so we can coordinate and match again. This has worked out pretty perfectly.
Perfect.